Hello, hello, Deirdre Virvo here. Welcome to Let's Talk Seniors Memory Care Issues, Dementia, Alzheimer's, and Parkinson's. So happy to see you today. Before I forget, we have a very special guest today, but before I forget, I want to do a big invitation to all those in the Fairfield County, New Haven area. Tomorrow is the official mayor ribbon cutting grand opening of Just Like Home's Dogwood Home. So 9 to 11:30 tomorrow. If you're in the area, you'd like to come by and see the home, we'd love to have you. The mayor will be there, the Chamber of Commerce, I'll be there. Everybody connected with us. So we are very happy to have you at 62 Dogwood Drive in Shelton. 62 Dogwood Drive in Shelton, or shoot me an email after this. So today we have a fabulous guest on. She is a very accomplished woman and the writer and author of How to Receive, the Gift of Caregiving. And she's going to talk to us about how to receive caregiving as a gift. So many people think caregiving can be a hardship because it can be exhausting, but she is going to put her positive spin on it and tell you how it really is a gift. And if you've been a caregiver, at times you probably feel it's a burden and a gift. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Beverly Kidder to the screen. Hello, Miss Beverly. How are you?
Hi. How are you doing, Deirdre? It's good to see you. It's good to be here. Thank you.
I'm doing great. Yeah. So Beverly, why don't you give us a little bit about your background, how you came up to writing the book, but also what you're doing now and how you got to where you are, because I know you have years of experience.
I do. I'm old, and that's how you get years of experience. So it's one of the really good things about aging, it gives you the opportunity to develop experience. So I'm a social worker. I have a doctorate in social work from Columbia University. I spent the early part of my career, 27 years of it, as a hospital social worker at the Hospital of St. Raphael's, which is now part of Yale, and took off 8 years when I, late in life, adopted a son and wanted to do that full time and really be invested in that in a way that I couldn't do if I was working full time. And then I decided I was ready to come back and do something. Tried university work for a while. I enjoyed the teaching so much, but not a big fan of university politics and so on. That part I wasn't interested in. So I decided instead to return to agency work and teach part-time. So for the last 20 years, that's what I've been doing, is working at the Agency on Aging. I'm currently the Vice President for Community Programs. And last year I retired from the University of New Haven, where I taught in their public health policy program for a good number of years. So that's who I am. That's where I come from.
That's quite an illustrious career. Tell me a little bit. I gotta ask, because you're old. No, tell me. Agency of Aging, the community outreach program. What exactly is that, and what are you doing now during COVID with the agency?
Okay, so those are some really good questions. So the Agency on Aging, they're nationally, I think there's like 530, something like that, agencies on aging throughout the country. Each one is a private, independent, nonprofit entity that receives federal funding. And they started initially to advise the Congress about issues and needs and gaps in service for older adults back in the early 60s. And then into the 70s, they started getting funding to create programs to fill in some of those gaps. And some programs are created by the agencies themselves. For instance, you might know the Meals on Wheels program. That was something that was created by agencies on aging. The whole concept of senior centers was created by agencies on aging. Once a program gets launched and funded for a while and is successful, spin it off, find community partners to take it over, and we fund new things. So currently, out of my office in North Haven, we are funding 24 independent agencies in the community that provide services to older adults, and they provide things like medical transportation and homemakers and chore services and all sorts of things like that. So we do that, and in addition, we operate multiple community programs that are not through the federal government. So our largest program is the Connecticut Home Care Program. We provide care management services for individuals over the age of 65 who need help at home, long-term help at home. I think currently we have about 3,500 active clients on that program. It's a very large program. We also fund something that some of you may know and have heard about called Money Follows the Person, which is a program to help people transition out of nursing homes and back into the community. And what a gratifying program that is, to see people get back into independent community life. Even if independence means that they need a lot of support services in the home, it also means they have the dignity and the right of the dignity of that, taking that risk to be in the community. So those are some of the things we do. We have programs for caregivers. We have programs specifically for dementia caregivers to try and help give them a little respite break, because caregiving, although it is a gift, can be an awful lot of work. So those are some of the things that we do at the Agency on Aging. So during COVID, what did we do differently? As an organization, we were very well prepared to switch to remote work. So we have our headquarters in North Haven, but all of us are able and are working most of the time, if not all of the time, remotely, and still serving the same number of clients, and in some cases taking more information calls from people. So that's working really rather well. The other thing we did that I'm so proud of, because it happened on my watch, was we developed a food program. Initially, we found that people's ability to get groceries was really impacted, particularly for the elderly. So the difficulty of getting out and getting it was one issue, and paying for it, because there were lots of other things that had to be paid for at the same time. So we were able to start a grocery shopping program, and now we have a second program that we call the grocery bag program, where we deliver dry goods. So in the grocery shopping program, we would shop for $100 worth of fresh foods for you, things that you couldn't get at a food pantry for the most part. And we would bring them right to your door. We'd call you up, find out what you need, go to the store, buy your cheese, buy your yogurt, and pay for it.
So let me get this straight.
Yeah.
So Agency on Aging is a federally funded nonprofit organization.
Correct.
And it's not in every state?
Every state has agencies on aging, but because we're independent, no two look exactly the same.
Oh, I see. Depends on what your need is for that community.
Yes, we tried very hard to identify those needs and meet those needs. And some of us are really creative at finding other funding sources beside the federal funding. And so we can offer more programs. So for instance, our grocery program, we didn't start that with any federal funding. We kicked that off with from the Tufts Foundation. The Tufts Family Foundation gave us $10,000 to start that program and feed 100 people. And that's how we started. And since then, we've gotten grants from multiple organizations like the Greater New Haven Community Foundation, People's Bank. And then CARES Act money came in and really enabled us to expand that program to many, many more seniors. So that's a program that just started in response to COVID, totally new.
So Beverly, how would somebody participate in it? Would they call
The Agency on Aging and say, I need help with food?
Do they have to have some sort of proof? Do they just need somebody to call in?
There's some criteria. You have to be over the age of 60. That's one requirement, because we serve only predominantly that population. And you have to be at less than 150% of federal poverty, which for an individual is about $2,025 a month. Thereabout, not exactly, but thereabout. But if someone has a need, it's worth calling us, because even if you don't fit the criteria, we may be able to help you get into something else.
So basically, if you're a senior living just on Social Security, you probably are falling into it if you didn't have a pension or savings.
Exactly. Yeah.
And you get a lot of help. So do seniors typically call in themselves, or are there social workers or their family members calling in for them?
We much prefer to talk to the individual. Social workers call us, the hospital discharge planners call us, but we usually try to force them to get the people to call us, because we really need to assess what the need is. I had a real estate agent call me today, and she just called with a list of 3 people, their names and addresses, and said, deliver food to these people. Yeah, it doesn't work that way.
No, you have to have more criteria than that.
Yeah.
So that's so interesting. So Meals on Wheels, I love that organization. My dad worked for them. My kids have worked for them. We've packed meals for them for years. Meals on Wheels, I always thought it was run by Catholic Charities. So did Agency on Aging give it over to Catholic Charities now?
We
running.
started it, and we continue to be the primary funder for it for older adults, but we don't actually go deliver the meals. We give grants to other organizations like Catholic Charities in the Fairfield area to actually go and deliver the meals. In the New Haven area, we give the funding to LifeBridge, and LifeBridge delivers the food. And if you live in the Valley, we give it to Team, and they deliver the food.
But
So
that's something that the Agency on Aging federal program started.
yes, and if someone needs in our region, if someone needs food, they call us directly, and even though we don't operate the program, we assess whether you're eligible for it, and then send your information along to the agency that's delivering the food, and get you on the program that way.
Those are amazing programs. Like my dad was, when he retired, he became a person that went around door to door giving the food, and he loved it because I guess he felt the main part was not just the food, it was making sure that they were safe and answered the door, and somebody daily was checking in on somebody who was homebound. So I love that. I used to do a thing called Friendly Shoppers and Visitors here in Stamford, which was it was not government. It was Stamford. There's like Stamford Senior Services and Senior Services of Stamford, whichever one's non-government.
Right.
I used to put people together that were homebound seniors with people that would shop for them every week. And the benefit was really not bringing the food. It was seeing somebody every week, because the people, oh my gosh, there was like a guy that never shaved, never got out of his bathrobe. But when he saw that lady that was bringing him his volunteer every week, his place was neater. He was showered now. He was shaving. He was looking forward to seeing her. Oh my gosh, he was like a whole different person. And they hardly conversed.
Yeah.
Then they started conversing, but like just how he blossomed by having somebody kind of looking after him.
Well, when we look more and more at the social determinants of healthcare, and we see the role that social isolation plays, you can see why Meals on Wheels is so valuable, because as you say, it isn't just the meal, it's that daily check-in. And every year we have one or two stories where drivers went in and found somebody that had they not come in, the person would have been dead. They would have just stayed on the floor for days.
Yeah. My dad.
It's a great program.
It's a great program. Now, do you also run the program where what's this program where the caretakers, if it's a family member, if they have to quit their job, they can get paid for taking care of their seniors?
There are some programs. They're, if I can be candid, they're probably oversold a little based on what they actually can deliver, because there are small funding. So we have two programs that we do for veterans. Those are very well-funded programs, and those really do what people are talking about. You can pay a family individual to be your caretaker, and that person can actually give up doing a different job and take the job of caring for you. And what they get paid is a living wage for a home health aide. But then we do have some other programs that we call self-directed care programs for older adults who are not veterans. And those, one of them has, in our particular agency, an annual cap of $1,500 a year that you can get paid.
Well,
and here it has like a $7,500 a year. So nobody can afford to give up their job and call. And I always feel badly because people hear about them. We brag about these programs on a statewide level. But when you get down to the nitty gritty of it, there's a great value for a couple of people that it fits into. But for most people, it really isn't all that helpful.
I hear it advertised all the time.
Yeah, it's a really popular concept. But mostly what we have is family caregivers doing this in addition to having to work a job. And I think it's one of the reasons that for most Americans, family caregiving is so hard and is such something to really admire when someone makes the commitment to do it, because almost always you're doing it on top of a paid job. Most American adults work. We're two paycheck families. There isn't, the day where mom can stay home and take care of grandma. It just doesn't happen. So mom works and takes care of grandma.
So serendipitously, and knowing I was coming to speak to you, this is just coincidence. My next door neighbor, he goes to work really early. He's an electrician, so he's always home by 2:30. And he just told me that his 93-year-old mother-in-law is probably moving in with them because she's going up and down her basement stairs to do the wash and, things that they're very worried about her. So, she's probably going to move in, but they both work full time, but they just want her there to make sure she's not falling and,
Right.
going down into the basement and,
Yep.
cooking for herself. They want to take care of her, but she wants to be independent. But they're prepared because they're very, very loving, very family oriented people. But
And
still,
I should say to you, because his is a beautiful example of what we're talking about. There isn't funding to afford either of them to stay home and just be with her. But
neither of them are looking.
There is funding available that could help that make it easier for them. So there's at our agency, we have 2 caregiver programs. One is for caregivers of people with dementia, and the other is just other caregivers. But you have to be caring for an older adult in both cases. But we can afford with that program a couple of days a week, like to put in a home health aide maybe. Or maybe you need someone who's just going to help with bathing once a week. Or maybe some chore services for them, so that we can support the caregivers. Because our goal, just like that lady, is to let people stay home as independent as possible. So we try to support that sort of thing.
And Beverly, whether this is lucky or unlucky right now, everybody is kind of home. So, there's a 25-year-old home working from home there, and the parents can still work. But it still makes it harder to have somebody home, because you still have to be working, right? So but anyway, that's what's going on with that. There's a worst day that I said, we're just going to be talking about that. So why don't you tell us a little bit about the book, how you came to the Gift of Caregiving.
So your Wi-Fi connection just totally broke up, but I'm guessing you asked me to tell something about the book and how I came to write it. Am I close to?
Yeah.
So I wrote the book of caregiving for caregiving in response to 2 things. One, a movement that was going on to talk about the burden of caregiving. That there was just a whole culture going on, like, oh my God, these poor caregivers. This is so awful. Their life is so horrible. This is such a burden. And I understand totally what people are talking about when they say that. But I also had a personal experience in my own life and the career experience of observing people who cared for loved ones and saw what happened in their lives. And I firmly believe that, yes, there's tremendous work, but that work doesn't have to be a burden. It can also be a gift. And so my desire in the book was to share my personal story and how I came to understand that, and to describe a little bit about what some of the gifts are that people receive. Because in the end, I believe they're the most important gifts we ever get in life. So in 5 minutes, I will enumerate some of them. And then I encourage people to read the book, look at the details of it, borrow it from someone who has it. But in the last stage, most of our caregiving happens to us as care recipients and as caregivers in late adulthood into old age. I don't refer to caregiving as raising children. That is a totally different animal. Doesn't look anything like caring for an old person or caring for a dying person. The 2 totally different things, which I won't go into the why of now, but there's good developmental reasons for it. But what we have is people make a sacrifice to care for someone else. And whenever you make a sacrifice, you have some opportunities. You can be angry that you had to do this, or you can embrace it and say, well, what opportunities are there here for me to learn about me, about myself, and to grow? So I think the first important gift that you get, if you're going to be a caregiver, you better get, is the gift of patience. You cannot be a good caregiver if you will not be patient with the individual you're caring for. Otherwise, life is just a checklist of things to get done, the way the home health aide may have to do it. But that is not what's supposed to be happening in family caregiving. Family caregiving happens from a place of love and family commitment. And the last thing you want to do is transmit the message that you're in a hurry to get this done because I've got more important things in life that I need to get to than you, old lady who needs to have your backside wiped because you can't do that yourself anymore. So you really have to learn how to be patient. And we talk in our society about patience, and we say patience is a virtue. And we say, when you think about the good things in life, a leisurely stroll on the beach, slowly, embracing someone in an act of love. We never talk about hurrying up, but we live our life often as hurrying up. And in caregiving, until you stop and you address this and you force yourself to step back and take a more patient approach to it, you're not a successful caregiver. You're wasting your time. So as long as you're going to do something, you don't want to waste your time. You want to get the maximum benefit for the person you're caring for and for yourself. You begin to develop the practice of patience. And where that's so great, all you hear people talk about nowadays is being in the moment, living in the moment, being mindful. You can't be mindful if you're hurrying. The second thing that caregiving offers you is an opportunity to practice mindfulness. You are right now, the person you're caring for is at the end. They are either old and at the late stage of their life, or they're dying, and this is the end. There is no big tomorrow to look forward to. You have to live in the moment with them, making new memories, sharing past things, enjoying them together. And as long as you keep living in the moment, the priority, as opposed to the checklist of did I bathe them, did I feed them, and you make that the priority, you start to exercise that muscle in yourself that long after that person is gone, you have the capacity to live a mindful existence, which we know reduces stress, improves quality of life, makes people feel happier. That is a gift that someone gives you, giving you the opportunity to develop that. You have to learn to become more empathetic, or you'll fail as a caregiver. You have to feel what it must be like for your father to have become incontinent in the bed, and you have to clean him up. The feeling of shame and humiliation and pain that he experiences, you have to feel that in your heart. Otherwise, you're just going to be angry that you have to I have all this work to do. And once you can cross that threshold and begin to feel that and care, that's an exercise that lasts with you, and you have the capacity to become empathetic with more and more people. You feel more of what people are doing. And that helps you to develop the most important thing we have in life, which is the capacity to love, to give love and to receive love. And caregiving gives you the unique opportunity with another adult in a situation where there's really nothing for you to gain. You're not trying to catch a husband. You're not trying to impress a lover. You're caring for another human being who, even when they can't express their appreciation, by the look on their face, the touch of their hand, they are loving the fact that you're there for them, that they can feel safe with you. And that is a gift that you'll just have with you and you'll take with you for the rest of your life. So those are some of the gifts of caregiving.
Can I tell you something, Beverly, while you're enumerating those? I have a Down syndrome brother who's 53, and I haven't seen him since COVID. And just now he was allowed out of his group home near my mom. So I saw him on Sunday. I'm going to cry.
Yeah. Caregiving should make you cry.
These are all the gifts he's given me.
Yeah. And sometimes people don't believe it, but once you begin to experience it and you allow yourself to really embrace the full experience, and you stop worrying about being efficient, and instead you start being concerned about being with the person, sharing with that person, creating those lifetime memories, letting that love flow between you, none of the rest matters. It really becomes so meaningful. And it's a gift.
And being patient. I walked down to the lake. My mother lives on a lake. I walked down to the lake, and there's no path anymore, and it's a few acres. And he's worried. Like, he doesn't want to walk now on sticks or anything. He has dementia. And, he stopped and broke every stick, and it took a half an hour. And I'm like, I'm here for him. He could break every stick. And we got down there and threw rocks, and I just wish I had a whole day long for him to throw rocks in the water. Because that's all he wanted to do. So I would have been happy to do that all day. It's getting dark, So it's exactly like what my friend taught me. So it's interesting. It's great. Those are great gifts. Making me cry.
I'm very glad.
That's a beautiful book, but you do have you really do have to be in the moment, because I have heard friends, both sides, working with their parents and being either exasperated or feeling like so much love. And the ones that have real patience are the ones that are getting something the most out of it. Or I say to my friends, like, it's always one friend. Like my girlfriend's father just died on the 4th of July, and her siblings live thousands of miles away. So all the responsibility's been on her, but also all the love has been on her. So even though, you get both. So she got the burden, but she got all love, so it's better. Like
I always say to people, you can always tell at the funeral who was the primary caregiver, because that's the one that's not crying. That one usually has given everything they could before, and they've come to the peaceful end. And the out of town children and the children who were a little too busy are the ones crying their eyes out, because they know they'll never get another chance. So my brother said to me after my mother died, if I only knew this was going to be the last Sunday, I would have come. That was not a choice for me. It was every day was the last Sunday. You never know,
Right.
But
But it is, you have to look at it like you're saying. If you look at it like you're exasperated and you're busy and you have to run through. Same. Now, I know you're not likening it to raising children, but if you could do that with your children too, you could just like be getting through and making them dinner and getting them bathed and never enjoying them.
Right.
So you have to like enjoy what's happening with your people that you're taking care of, right? Because it's a beautiful thing. So it's a beautiful book.
Thank you. I'm proud of it.
So have you turned people's opinions around? Like, have people?
I think it's been very helpful to some people. I know I get a lot of really nice letters from people, and I have had people, like I've talked about it at conferences, and I've had people purchase the book and then contact me and say, could we order a case? We want to distribute them, to people. So, and it won a nice award, the year it came out, a caregiver friendly award. So I was proud of that.
That's fantastic. That's beautiful.
But for me, the things I'm talking about, I can't say I felt them when I was caring for my mother. I was exhausted. I was tired. My mother was a very challenging person in her personality. And some of these things that only on reflection, I could look at and I can say, gee, how could things have been easier? And then I had the opportunity to care for my husband, who's very different than my mother, the most appreciative person in the world. And to kind of come in with the lessons that I learned from caring for my mother and having written the book. So I was able to be, I think, a much better caregiver with him. And then I got really a lot more out of it than I had with my mom. But it's a process. The caregiving doesn't end the minute the person is gone. All the things you did stay with you, and you think about them, you reflect on them, they affect next things in your life. And so you can still take lessons and learn and get a gift long after the actual act of providing the care ends.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, having a Down syndrome brother, I feel like he really taught me how to be a patient, much more empathetic person to everybody, as a young kid especially. And yeah, it's a great book. I wrote down everything you said. Pages of notes. You're a wealth of information. How can people get the book? How can we? Is it on sale somewhere?
Yeah, you can go on Amazon and just Google it and me, and it takes you right to the page to buy it.
So if we Google Beverly Kidder, the
Gift of Caregiving,
it's on Amazon.
Yep.
That's amazing. I think that is a beautiful.
What amazes me is people find it and buy it, and then all of a sudden I get a royalty check, and it's like, oh wow, why am I getting mail from Amazon? And every quarter they send me a check.
Oh, that's so nice. But it's like you're doing such a service, because like you said, when you're in the moment, I mean, imagine if you read this book when you were caring for your mom, you could have been able to put it in a little different perspective instead of hindsight, right? So you would have been like, let me take a breath. And I know, you have a kid, you have a husband, now you're a mom, you have a job. But, put it in perspective of what you are getting out of it.
Yeah.
So also, one other beautiful thing is it teaches your children how to be with older folks and how to be with you.
Yeah.
And I've had friends that aren't so kind to their parents. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's going to come around to you. And you're teaching
I
them
believe that.
lesson.
I totally believe that.
Leave you alone when you're older and in need. Like, that is not okay. It's not okay anyway. But I'm just like, that's just like, what are you doing? Yeah. So you're teaching your children also how to be, even if they're not the caretaker, you're teaching them what sacrifices, the gift of patience, the mindfulness, the empathy. You're teaching them all those lessons just through watching you. They don't actually have to go through it. So it's a secondary gift you're giving your whole family.
And one of the things I talk about in the book is once you realize that, and it's an opportunity, how you go about bringing in other people in the family so that they share the opportunity. They also then will share the work, and it makes it a little bit easier for you. And most people don't approach how to get help from your family in the correct way. And by correct, I mean effective. And they end up just being angry. No one wants to help me. I just have to do it all myself, And there are ways around that. And so that's one of the things I think people need to learn. Can I plug one other thing?
Yeah.
We do something called the Fearless Caregiver Conference every year in November, which is Caregiver Month. We will be having it in November this year. I'm sorry, I don't remember the date, but it'll be on the Agency on Aging website. It's going to be Zoom this year. It is one of the most important, moving conferences that I am involved with. And I have to tell you, the day my husband died was, we had a conference that day. I went to the conference because I knew that was a place that I could be with people who understood what I was going through and who have been there themselves and who knew how to share themselves. So any caregiver who's interested in knowing more about caregiving and seeing other caregivers in action, there's no charge for it, and it'll be on the agency website.
So Agency on Aging.
Yep, and it's called the Fearless Caregiver Conference.
In November. It's going to be on Zoom, and anybody's allowed to. You don't have to be a caregiver.
No, anyone can attend.
Anyone can attend is free.
Yep, it's free.
You have to sign up.
If you're a professional, there's 6 CEUs for development in it. So, So.
Wow, that's powerful.
Yeah.
I honestly wrote down like every word you said, even though I could just replay this, but it's great. That is great. And I always think that of people that are hospice workers, my God, they're like angels, but they have to have read your book because they know all this. This is how they can do it at peace and not.
One of the head social workers at our Connecticut hospice in Branford read my book. She was my former supervisee, and she was there when I wrote the book and was one of my readers for it. So they've read it.
I mean, you couldn't work. You couldn't be your hospice angel. You couldn't do that without, implementing these 5 tactics, right?
Yeah.
Because I always think, how are they not crying 24 hours a day? It's funny. My daughter also went to Columbia. She's a master's, not a PhD in social work, but she cries over every one of her people. It's tough not to take it to heart, right? It's tough not to be really empathetic for everybody you meet. So it's but you put it in a beautiful perspective. Well, Beverly, I don't want to keep it any longer, but thank you so much. You've been incredible. I love the Gift of Caregiving. I'm going to look it up. I'm going to buy it. So cool. I'm going to give it to my caregivers at my house too.
There you go.
They, will really feel more, getting the appreciation out of life. That's beautiful. And we should all appreciate what we're doing for a job. But when you're a caregiver, it's not always that easy. But this puts it in perspective. And I love it. Thank you so much for coming on.
My pleasure. Anytime.
Will you come on again? Because you have.
Oh, I can talk forever, as you can see. But we have lots and lots of programs, so I'm always happy to talk about them.
I would love you to come on again and talk about some of the other programs because I'm curious how you find things out, right? Like just for instance, veterans. You mentioned veteran programs. Now, if I call the Veterans Association, would they know these programs, or do I have to call your association to get where are they all together? Are they?
Yeah, that's one of the sad things in life. We trap people between the information silos. So the Veterans Hospital certainly should. The Veterans Administration certainly should, because they fund the programs. But as many people who work there who know, there's that many who also don't have a clue what you're talking about. So
I'm saying in general, not just about the veterans. I'm just saying,
absolutely, yeah.
There's so many different
many.
programs.
Yeah.
And how would somebody know to go to you for these programs and go to like the veterans for the programs, go to like
It's
you
always
really-
one of the questions we ask people. How'd you know to call us? We track that with all our people. Mostly word of mouth. Someone called us and they got something, and then they tell someone, and then they call us. And that's, when you're dealing with nonprofit or municipal organizations, you're not going to have big marketing campaigns to advertise. So, you put out your little brochure that's on a table somewhere, and that's about it. So it's who got help. And lots of the people who call us are not entitled, they get so mad. But my neighbor, she got a home health aide. Why can't I get one? Well, she met this criteria and you meet a different criteria, but we're a good starting place. One of the programs I didn't talk about is we have a big information and assistance program. We take calls from about 8,000 people a year, just answering those questions. Like not that we're going to actually do the service, but this is how you get this. This is how you find out about housing. This is where you get transportation, so on. So we're a good place to
real social service. Yeah. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Beverly. You are a beautiful soul, and I wish you well there with COVID. At least your son's coming over. I love your book, The Gift of Caregiving. It is beautiful. Amazon, Beverly Kidder. You can find it there. She looks forward to those royalty checks, so order it now.
Okay.
Thank you so much. We'll talk to you again, Beverly.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye. Oh my gosh. She's a great guest. She really knows a lot of stuff. Beverly knows a lot of stuff. She is a great guest. She has a wealth of information on the Agency on Aging. I didn't know they did Meals on Wheels and all those different programs and initiated them. That is a really cool program. I'm loving that. So now you know where to go for more information. Agency on Aging in your town. To get information, you could start there for any seniors that you have, and if you don't know where to start with them, Agency on Aging. They will point you in the right direction if they don't have something for you. So until tomorrow, I am looking forward to seeing you then.
Hi, Deirdre here again. Thank you for joining me on Let's Talk Seniors Memory Care Issues. Is this an issue hitting home? Do you have a parent or loved one with memory care issues who feels not safe at home anymore? Are isolation, falls, and safety issues becoming a big concern? Welcome to Dogwood Senior Home, premier boutique residential senior living specializing in memory care. It's country living at its best in the Huntington section of Shelton, Connecticut. We're truly a home with only 6 senior residents living as one family unit. Senior residential homes are concepts sweeping the nation with 47,000 across the U.S. We're pleased to open Dogwood Senior Home as it will be only number 6 for Connecticut. Brand new, sparkling clean, opening mid-June. And safe, safe, safe. We are COVID-free. Residential care homes boast a very low COVID infection rate across the nation. This is due to the intimacy of size and speed in which the caretakers can shift to accommodate immediate needs. They are much safer than the large homes and facilities, as you can imagine. It has been documented that residents have less falls and a better quality of life in a residential home environment. Our home is more affordable than the big box facility. You pay one all-inclusive price, and that price is guaranteed for the life of the resident. With an incredible 1-to-3 caregiver ratio, which you won't find anywhere else. Our friendly, loving caregivers are dedicated and trained in Alzheimer's, dementia, and Parkinson's issues. We're only taking 6 residents, so the home will fill up fast. Call me at 203-689-7562 for a talk and tour. I would love to meet you and your loved one. See you soon. Bye.